Hi, welcome to Restrocast. Today my guest is Joe Frem. He's the founder and CEO of Matbakhi. Joe is somebody who I found to be a thoughtful leader, somebody who, in his own admission, started his entrepreneurial journey in the restaurant space in his head when he was 13. And since then, not only took multiple entrepreneurial bets in life, but also has had a beautiful, illustrious career, from doing his engineering degree to MBA at INSEAD to working with McKinsey for half a decade plus. And all of that was done to impress a girl. But story has much more to it. I found Joe to be somebody who is thinking about every step that he's taking, and that thought is not only shaping his life but also shaping the business around him. This conversation was beautiful. I'm really excited about what Joe has to offer to the world and what he's doing with Matbakhi. I'm sure you'll enjoy the episode. Welcome to Restrocast. So Joe, welcome to Restrocast.
Hi Ashish, how are you?
Great, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Welcome on the couch. I want to start with a start. I have a thesis that most of the people don't land into the restaurant space, and I say that there's a lot of times that people don't really land in restaurant industry or food and beverage industry by choice. Most of the times they just fall into it somehow, or it's kind of a honey trap, because that was my story. It just looked too good. I thought it's cool to own a restaurant, and I jumped into it head first. Got bruised, got hurt, bled a lot, but in the process fell in love with the problem, and here we are today. What's your story? Where it all started for you?
So my story is basically a series of doors opening, right? That eventually led into this space, right? At a 30,000 feet view, it's the intersection of four big journeys in my life, and we'll talk about them a bit more. But let me take you back when I was 13 years old, and I was starting to realize at this early age that disproportionate wealth will happen through ownership. Ownership will get you disproportionate wealth.
Wow.
Yes, and when you're 13 years old, your set of skills are almost nothing, right? You can do math, you can do physics. That's it. You don't have anything to add at 13. Not like today's 13-year-olds who can do pretty much everything. But
And where were you? 13?
So I was in Lebanon. I was in Lebanon, born and raised in Lebanon. And the first reaction is to really tap into the industry that works extremely well now, which is restaurants. Back then, F&B was big, still is. And I started as a waiter. I learned how to. I started as a runner, then waiter, then.
At 13?
At 13.
Oh wow!
Obviously, after school and
part-time.
Yes, part-time. And this shaped me a lot, because you had to learn. You had to become customer facing when you're 13. So it shapes a lot who you are, and it builds this emotional intelligence that you don't necessarily get at school, for example, or for example, if you travel or whatever. And then, so that was this moment. I wanted to have my own restaurant, but it was too expensive, and I was 13 years old. So I was always alert, right? When I turned 15, I actually identified an opportunity with a friend. His father used to have a carpet store which had a retail license. So he said, okay, why don't, and the store was made of two spaces. Let's move the carpets from one space to another, and then go buy clothing in bulk and sell it in retail. And this is what we did, right? So and you will see that throughout there's a recurring theme of distressed businesses facing struggles and then coming in having a turnaround mentality. And I didn't know I had it since this young age, but it was just a basic natural instinct, business instinct of, okay, we can do more with this, right? So ran this business, and it's still on. Of course, his father now is running it, but it's still on.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That retail store is still on.
Yes.
And that's run by your friend.
By his father, yes. So ever since that has been, and this is the start of me wanting to build a business, because going back to the first principle, ownership gets you disproportionate wealth, right? But then very quickly I learned that obviously there are a very large number of concepts that I need to understand, I need to test, I need to be exposed to succeed. And this is when I decided to do my engineering degree. And that was it was not by choice per se, but because it was a challenge. Had I not been accepted in engineering school, I would have done economics and
But when you had this such an urge to own a restaurant, why did you go towards an engineering degree?
Because I believed that an engineering degree will allow me to have transferable skills that
you thought about that, or was it like a hindsight wisdom?
No. So then and there, so I looked at all the engineers that I knew then. Most of them were not working in engineering. And then that was a big question mark. How come an engineer is either a consultant or in financial services or that most probably the engineering is something that will allow you, is a ticket for you. So I wanted that ticket. But was it a passion then and there? Of course not. For me, business, and then I wanted to do economics, I wanted to do political sciences. That this is something of passion to me. In hindsight, I would have done engineering because, well, my intuition was there. And as I finished my degree, I started working in engineering, and that moment when you feel that, okay, good, now I have something in my hand that I can sell. Great, what can I do with it? So I looked around and I found that small to medium scale projects. So in Lebanon, there was a lot of engineering offices doing large scale jobs, but the small and medium ones, there was very few who were actually taking them, and it was a long tail. So the idea was, why don't we build an agency or let's say an office for the small and medium scale, right? We do volumes. And this is where I launched with two partners, EDA, Engineering Design Agency, which was basically an engineering company focused on small to medium scale projects, electrical and mechanical. And we leverage all our connections. So also I had so my sister was an architect, her connections were architects. So the flow of projects was very healthy.
So you started this right out of your engineering school?
Right. No, a year before I finished engineering school, right?
So while in engineering.
So yeah, that was, we started taking freelance, and then the number of freelance projects increased, and then we said, okay, great. So this is how we position our company. Obviously there were challenges. Cash flow was a challenge.
What year was this, Joe?
That was around 2009, 2008, 2009.
2008. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
A lot of challenges, of course. Cash flow was one of them. Collections from clients, because they didn't collect from their original client. So I had to learn that, okay, so these are things I didn't know. They don't teach you these things in engineering school. So slowly but surely I started understanding that there is way more to business. If you want to build one, if you want to build a successful one, because disproportionate wealth needs ownership. And you cannot have ownership in a company if you don't know how to run it financially. So slowly but surely, I got to the conclusion that I needed to build that set of skills.
So given the fact that you were running it before completing your engineering degree, what was your family's opinion about it? Like, what was the support system or lack of it? What was it?
My family has been always supportive, right? They encourage me since early ages to actually go and explore, right? And really, if I were to do anything with my kids now, I would do the same thing. Go and explore, try, lean in, let the experience teach you. And we'll go back to how this shaped me as well. Because without that, it's difficult to learn a value.
Right.
You have to try it, test it, and then you'll build a value, right? So this is where I had. So it was clear to me that I need to build that part of my set of skills. So I did my did my MBA in INSEAD, and then joined McKinsey and Company. Maybe a small parenthesis before this happening. In 2010, I was very close to achieving my dream. There was again a restaurant in Beirut City that was struggling. So with a group of friends, we came in and then we took ownership of that restaurant. It was in downtown, and I learned a lot of things, and that was my first real experience in managing an F&B business, and understanding where the power lies in that equation with the customers, your suppliers, right? The location, understanding the power of clustering. Like now you understand why you always see McDonald's next to a Burger King, next to a Subway. So they're next to each other, like clustering, right? But then I learned that then and there without labeling it, right? So that ran for almost a year and a month, or a year 2 months. Unfortunately, there has been some uprisings in Beirut and in downtown Beirut, which resulted in no customers at all, zero, nobody. There was no walk-in, nothing. Food delivery then and there was what nobody used to deliver, right? In that
back in 2010.
Yeah,
that was not a thing.
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. So we had to shut down that restaurant with a lot of scars, because so that was my first big failure. And you know, when you're young and you have a failure, and it's counterintuitive, right? You want to succeed, you have all the ambitions, but you're a bit sometimes shallow, I would say, in believing your own thoughts without stress testing.
Why did you go for MBA after this kind of like failure, and why did you choose INSEAD?
So for me, it was 2 reasons, quite honestly. The first one is it was very clear to me that for you to learn the business side of things, you have to be in a very intense environment that's gonna teach you very quickly pretty much a lot of business concepts and what have you. And that was for me consulting. The second one, that's an interesting one. I wanted to impress a girl because she wanted to go to McKinsey. And I wanted to impress her and actually get that job in McKinsey. So
INSEAD was your path to McKinsey.
Exactly. And McKinsey hires or recruits most from INSEAD. So that's the link. So my goal in life was to get into INSEAD, and within INSEAD, I wanted to go to McKinsey.
Did you get that girl?
She's my wife.
Perfect. Brilliant.
Yeah. So in INSEAD, it was a great journey. I learned a lot, and then obviously I focused and wanted to get McKinsey. Joined McKinsey here in the region. 6 years into it, I learned a lot. Never thought I would leave. But then Delivery Hero came knocking in 2019, and I had no clue who they were. I didn't know anything about. So I knew about food delivery, but the dynamics.
So what happened those 6 years, right? INSEAD, and then 6 years McKinsey, and of course I can understand I'm not going to ask you why did you join McKinsey. The answer is obvious. But 6 years McKinsey, what happened to that entrepreneurial bug or the dream of the restaurant? Did it like just take a back seat? Like, did you just forget it, or was there still something burning?
So the entrepreneurial itch was still there. And during my time at McKinsey, I helped develop a new business, which is an agribusiness, apple orchards. And so it was underutilized land. So developed plan for it, and then developed it, and then started
Under
selling.
McKinsey?
Well, yeah, when I was with McKinsey, but I was not the lead in it, right? I was supporting.
Sure.
Again, distress asset, turnaround, goes back. So this is the same thinking, right? Identifying an opportunity and then launching it and selling to external markets and what have you. The second one was a cider business. So great, we have Apple. What can we do with apples? In 2018, it was a big issue because then and there in Lebanon there was a crisis on apple sales or apple exports. We couldn't export apple, so we had a big stock of apple. What to do with it? And it happened to be during this time I was in South Africa, also for a project with McKinsey, and I got to learn about cider. And I got to go and visit. There was a cider maker who taught me a lot about cider, and started putting the case for a cider business, which we so got small grant, identified someone to actually run it in Lebanon, and then we launched it. It's still small in size. It didn't grow because I had different priorities after this part, and I'll tell you a bit more about it. But it was also, so I was scratching that itch with these little things. Now the restaurant business was still there. So and you see it when you start understanding how this industry is evolving. The number of entrants, the number of people who exit. The entrants enter with a loud voice. The exits are very silent.
Yeah, absolutely. Hush, hush.
Yeah. So and this, again, it's a distress. So why? There's definitely an opportunity there, but I didn't wrap my hands around it. Delivery Hero in 2019, end of 2019, came knocking, and I never thought I would leave McKinsey, but well, said at the end, after 7 or 8 interviews, I said, great, let's have a try. And my role was to actually lead something called food services, which included cloud kitchens, new virtual concepts, and other new businesses that they were considering, right? I was almost employee number 2 in that department, and then we rebuilt the whole department. Today I think it's a lot of people. I don't know where they stand. Build a large network of cloud kitchens.
So you built, like, you were leading food service business for Delivery Hero in the region. Where were you stationed? Like what?
I'm sorry?
Where were you stationed? Like what was?
So based in Dubai, but servicing all the region except Saudi. Because back then, Delivery Hero was not a majority owner in Hunger Station. So now it's not the case anymore. Correct. They acquired, of course. But yeah. So and my first official week of work was I think 23rd of March, 2020. So a week into the whole world being declared or COVID being declared a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. Building a team on Zoom, construction on Zoom, lobbying with the municipality on Zoom.
What were you constructing? What was the business about? Like, what was this business? Just like double check.
Yeah. So the business that I was running was basically building, it's Gen 1 cloud kitchen, basically a rental model. Building stalls inside a big kitchen and then renting out each stall to
What was it called? Were they calling it some name or?
Delivery Hero kitchens.
That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Delivery also started that was a Talabat initiative, like tea kitchens or tea hubs, or they had some model with Talabat as well, right?
So Delivery Hero was the execution arm of Delivery Hero in the region was Talabat.
Talabat,
Right.
correct.
So this is from a structure point of view. So basically, I was a Talabat employee under Delivery Hero, of course.
Got it.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it was a great experience to learn how to build a team in difficult situations, and then grow a business out of nowhere and start learning from it, and starting to understand what are the different commercial models that you can create, and how to partner best with restaurants, and slowly but surely, I was talking to so many restaurants, so many owners, GMs, and you start to learn a lot about the business in depth when you have these conversations.
What were like few things that like stood out for you, if you remember in those days?
Obviously, it was becoming slowly but surely clear to me that a cloud kitchen business cannot survive alone. Impossible.
Why?
This overexposure to food delivery, and the cyclicality of the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and there's a lot of cyclicality in revenues, which is not good for the business. That's point number one.
What do you mean by cyclicality?
The orders will come at different times, right? In the summer, you should expect a dip. In December, you should expect a dip. Ramadan, 40% less. Your weekend is different than your weekdays. Your breakfast service is pretty much nothing. So hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, your salary week is different than your midweek, right? So you get to learn all of these things, and then you start understanding also how restaurants look at growth throughout the cycle, right? So you start to learn a lot by talking to so many of them, because we were also responsible for their growth. They needed to make money so they can stay in the kitchens. So my biggest risk in this business was churn. So my goal was to reduce churn as much as possible, because any churn means that stall is going to be empty for 2 months, for them to leave and for someone else to go back in.
Yeah.
So and 2 months out of 12, that's a lot.
But did you consider that a kitchen business, or was it just a real estate business?
Definitely, it was a specialized real estate business focused on kitchens. Of course, it's a real estate business. Of course, it's you get rent and you get a revenue cut, right, or revenue commission. So
but were you running your own brands as well? Were you thinking?
No. Then and there, no. Eventually, we started considering that. Okay, great. Now that we have access to the whole market, maybe we can start identifying cuisines that we can help our or relevant brands to actually grow their numbers. So we started suggesting to certain brands in certain locations, certain restaurants, that hey, maybe if you consider this or that, you might generate sales. So this is more on the consulting front, right?
But you guys were not building your own brands.
No. Until I think 2022, when we started building in collaboration with restaurants. So we would go to the restaurant, we build the brand together, and they will operate and they will do everything, and then we will grow, right?
So at Delivery Hero, or rather I would say Talabat, what was your designation? What were you?
I was a VP of food services.
Food services.
Yes.
Got it. Based in Dubai. And then what happened then? How did you jump off that ship?
One important thing that also happened, being part of my mandate, was also to look after investments of Delivery Hero and other cloud kitchen companies. And that was extremely interesting, because I learned a lot by looking at how in the span of 2 years, right, this industry changed completely. And there was a massive shift from an absolute need you couldn't go to restaurants. So delivery was the only way.
Yeah.
To then after when COVID started to relax, it was becoming less of a need and more of a strategy. Okay, we expand in this location, we throw a cloud kitchen, works great, we transform it into brick and mortar. Then to a balancing act between underperforming assets for big restaurant companies, so they would pull out a certain location, their brick and mortar, and replace it with a cloud kitchen. So I've learned a lot on this front, but mostly also looking after investments of Delivery Hero, where I started understanding also the legacy decisions and their impact on the business. So by looking at P&Ls, you start understanding that, okay, great, I don't want that depreciation line to be that big. So asset-light model. You need to think about an asset-light model. For example, the licensing. I don't want to be paying a licensing fee to a big brand, right? It hits directly your beta. So also, how can we create brands? I don't want to be overexposed to food delivery, because I can see that these companies were struggling when there was a dip in the, if it rains, you lose 40% of your revenues.
Correct.
So these
it's amazing. One big thing is that not only if it rains, right? I think I would rather abstract it as that while companies, all the online delivery aggregators, while they have allowed restaurants to increase their sales, allow more orders to be processed, etc. But the fact is that the constraint is availability of delivery riders.
True.
Right? And if you think about it, that piece is not regulated. For example, even till today, it beats me that restaurant brands have not started asking online delivery aggregators to have a certain SLA on a certain number of delivery riders availability at a certain, like on an hourly basis at certain days. Because if you think about it, because delivery operators control the demand and they also control the supply of the riders, they actually adjust it themselves. If they don't have riders, your store is not going to be visible, and hence somebody is not going to order on your store, and life is good for you because you are saying, hey, no order. I don't even know whether the rider was there or not. But the fact is that rider was not there. Your area was not serviceable. Your store did not show up to a certain consumer, and you think your order is not coming.
Yeah.
Right? And that clearly beats me, because I don't really look at it as, Talabat is trying to do something wrong or Uber Eats is trying to do something wrong. I'm not commenting on that. I'm just commenting on the fact that this piece is not regulated, because as an industry, when restaurants have stopped having their own riders, when restaurants are, have started looking at their fortunes basis, 40% to 70% revenue coming from deliveries, this becomes such a critical component that if I was running a restaurant business today, whether I can succeed in that conversation or not is a separate problem. But I would want an aggregator to give me an SLA on availability of riders per hour, per day basis, and then give me a report on the real demand my brand has.
That's true. Look, and the logistics part of food delivery is a very difficult business, quite honestly, and because you're solving for peaks, and becomes extremely, and if you're operating in off-peak hours, you're great, but people don't eat at 4 p.m. They eat at 7. They eat at 1, 2. So managing peaks is very, very difficult. Now, the sheer fact that the channel or the stakeholder that is managing the demand, which is the sales channels called aggregators, is also managing the delivery. This is the difficulty of it, right? Had it been a different stakeholders, imagine there is an aggregator for delivery riders in a certain city, right? And they are integrated with all the delivery, and the only way to actually get a rider is from that pool of riders that this particular aggregator has. The dynamics would have been completely different, because the sales of this aggregator would be, look, I want to make sure that every single restaurant places as many orders, and they're not solving the logistics problem. They would push the logistic problem on that aggregator, and then that aggregator of riders would have a single goal: I don't want to miss any order because I take per order.
But that's a problem, right? I think the problem is that I think it's just a venture capital funded operator problem, because you basically just want every piece of GMV into the play.
Yeah.
And then you realize the GMV is not playing enough for you because your margins are negative. So then you want to basically forward and reverse integrate every piece of that puzzle just to make up for the margins. And that's exactly where, I think my comment on that constraint is that the constraint of an aggregator to maintain a certain rider base has a direct correlation with prosperity of the restaurant brands that are listed on it. And this equation is not getting questioned right now, for great extent actually, is only because restaurant brand, this is this fallacy, right? Restaurant brand believes that, okay, you and me are on the same side. So if my revenue goes up, your revenue goes up. But the fact is that for the aggregator, there are like 100,000 restaurants, but for the restaurant, there's only one aggregator. And it's a problem. That's where the equation goes horribly wrong.
The incentives, it could be the case. Now, also aggregators will solve for their capabilities. If I have 20,000 riders, or if I have 5,000 riders, what I end up showing will be subject to how much I can deliver. And then if my sales team to get the restaurant is doing a great job, I'm not going to tell my sales team to stop. Keep adding restaurants in the aggregators. But on the logistics front, we have a fleet that cannot actually service that much in peaks. And this is another problem in logistics part, because your utilization during peaks is of a sort, or hits a target, and then off peak you have an issue.
Even at the peak, your maximization of revenue becomes a little subjective. I think because capacity of kitchens is generally quite way more than what most of the people think they are.
Absolutely.
Right. So kitchens are really elastic. My own restaurant experience was that. I can tell you one example. As a novice restaurateur, I think my first restaurant was a quick service restaurant, which was, if I remember correctly, was 500 square feet.
Okay.
At a high street, top location, paying top dollars in rent. And I was not a smart restaurateur. I was like a stupid kid who was riding high on money, because I was running a tech company. I used to run a telecom company. So I was like, money is not a problem. We'll open a restaurant. How much will it cost? And we took the top place, this and that. I remember, I think our first architect, out of 500 square feet, built a kitchen for 210 square feet. And because it was supposed to be a QSR, we had very, very few seating space. Most of it is, was takeaway, drive-through, etc. And then I remember within first 6 months, we saw great success with, one, it was a great location. And two, we are better than good food. So it just, the demand was up. And we decided that, okay, maybe, we need to repurpose the same space. And by that time, I had also become a little smarter, for the restaurant. And I basically looked at the operation and I said, you know what, something is off in this design. And I got a restaurant consultant. He basically said, yeah, of course. Your kitchen can actually be 100 square feet. I was like, wow. And I actually tell you, we remodeled the kitchen for 80 square feet. Carved out almost a 400 square feet worth of seating area. for casual dine. And from the same kitchen, we actually did exactly 3x the sale. And this kitchen was still underutilized. And the elasticity of that kitchen space just blew my mind. I suddenly realized that, wow, like that's why age-old restaurants where owner has been sitting for ages, who people like, me look at them and say, oh, losers. But they're not losers. These guys are killing it. They exactly know how to get the bang for the buck for each square feet. And they actually make way more money than people with 50 stores or 100 stores at times. I've actually seen that. That is only because they understood the elasticity of their own kitchen. They realized that demand is everything, and processes can be changed to meet that demand. And that's where I feel that even at the peak hours, while restaurants kind of tend to say, oh, we need to shut down our store on delivery aggregators for like half an hour, I don't agree with that. Whenever I hear a restaurant saying, oh, at peak hours we are so jammed that we have to like shut down our listing for like 15 minutes just to bring it down, I think that something is horribly wrong with your process and your understanding of it, because you cannot explain that to me. It's very hard for me to understand how can you be so jammed, unless of course you are a pizza oven, wherein I understand that there can only be X number of pizzas that can go into the oven.
Yeah.
But for most of the cuisines, like,
you're absolutely right. So I like to spend also a lot of time in the kitchen to understand what's happening. So by the sheer fact that you're observing, you start understanding, okay, great, my grill is overutilized. I need 2 grills. And maybe all of a sudden, removing potentially one fryer, for example, right? Because the fryer is rarely utilized. I don't get a lot of orders from that location for fried food, which takes us back to I was observing a lot of these businesses that Delivery Hero also invested in, and talking to all these owners. And then this is where the entrepreneurial itch came back and said, if I were to build my own company, these are the things that I'd like to do. And I let it sit with me, right? And it was in my mind, but slowly but surely, and that was towards the beginning of 2022, I was starting to feel that, look, I've learned a lot, and there are a lot of things that we can definitely do, which are low-hanging fruits. This is when this is when I had a very strong partnership with my partner now and co-founder, and this is where we said, okay, look, why don't we build our own?
Was your co-founder at Delivery Hero as well?
No, he was an operator, leased some stalls from Delivery Hero kitchens.
And you didn't know him before?
I didn't know him before, and this
very
is
interesting.
It's one of those relationships that transform to become way more than you would have imagined to, right? And to be very honest, this is my ethos in building relationships. I try the relationships to be long term, and you never know what can happen. Something like this can happen out of it, like finding a co-founder, right?
Yeah.
And we had the same ideas and the same perspective on the F&B business, and it's funny. One day he came to me and said, look, there's a group of investors who named you and me to actually team up and run a business, and we'll get 10% of it. We wouldn't worry about the money. They will fund it, but we get 10%. I said, okay, great. If there is a bunch of investors who are willing to do this, why not us actually leaving our jobs and building our own and have the bigger share of it?
Wow. But what was he running at that time?
He was the chief commercial officer and chief financial officer of Ethos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The group has multiple brands,
Yeah, Nadeem, the CEO. I did a podcast with him, by the way. I'm sure you might have checked it out, and I love these guys.
Yeah. They know how to do. They know food. To say the very least.
For sure.
Which is great, because partnering up with someone who's been part of this organization is also very important. coming from an operator mindset, right? And then we saw things eye to eye on how to build the business. And it was very exciting to both of us to actually take that moment, that leap of faith and say, you know what, let's set up our business in Saudi and unlock these golden handcuffs and just go ahead and jump into the opportunity.
You jumped into it.
And that was mid of 2022. Mid of 2022 was, my last day in Delivery Hero was August 29, 2022.
August 29, 2022. And that's when you started Matbakhi.
And this is where, we started Matbakhi.
Tell me, how do you explain what is Matbakhi?
Matbakhi is an F&B operator for the hospitality industry. What we do is we operate all the F&B department for 1 to 4 star hotels and some 5-star hotels. We improve the utilization of these kitchens by adding different services such as food delivery and catering, and we offload all the operational hassle of F&B off of the shoulders of hoteliers.
So what kind of hotels are your customers? Like, because most of the hotels, F&B is a significant revenue. My understanding is, anywhere between 20 to 30% is the additional revenue that a hotel must make from F&B. Like super serious hotels can go up to 40-50% as well, where they run great restaurants inside the hotel. What's your sweet spot? What kind of hotels benefit from Matbakhi?
You're right. Most of the 1 to 4 star hotels, their F&B is around 15 to 20% of the revenues. The issue is that they're on the profitability front, they're either breaking even or it's not very profitable as a business. Our sweet spot goes anywhere from 1 to 4 star hotels, size from 50 rooms to, right now we're taking a 2,000 hotel room. 2,000 rooms, yes.
In a single hotel?
In a single hotel.
Wow.
Yes. So the size of the rooms is important. The depth of the menu.
But why will a 2,000? And I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here. Actually, I'm trying to really understand. I think 2,000 is too big. I think any hotel with 500 rooms even simply means, like my understanding says, that they have enough captive audience to run at least 4 restaurants, lease those 4 restaurants differently or like to different brands, still make great money and operate their room service piece quite profitably at 500 plus rooms. What's the catch here?
So in the case of the 2,000 hotel room, this is in Mecca, and right now the F&B vertical in the hospitality of Mecca is facing like a major inflection point. Because in the past few years, Umrah was only 6 months old. So
Correct.
Most of the hoteliers decided not to invest in F&B and then offered only rooms and let the pilgrims get their F&B from catering companies that are usually outside of Mecca because of the real estate price. Real estate in Mecca is extremely expensive. So now that this has changed, it's year long. All these hotels, probably 95% of the hotels in Mecca, are asking this question: how can we optimize F&B?
Wow.
The issue is that they don't have the muscle to actually do it because they haven't been doing it for the past few years.
Correct.
And as hoteliers, as real estate people, they don't like F&B. F&B requires a set of skill that is completely different.
Yeah.
From managing the quality to the suppliers to the day-to-day operation.
I think the fact that headache of F&B, like just taking it up is the point, right? Most of the people don't want to take that up.
Yes. Yeah.
I generally tell people that hotels and restaurants are two step brothers of hospitality industry.
Yeah.
They come under the same umbrella, but they're absolutely 180 degree out from each other. Most of the hoteliers don't make great restaurateurs. and most of the restaurateurs are not able to venture into, hotels that well. I mean, there are real estate groups which are able to do both, but most of the times, if they're successful, operators are different people.
Exactly.
It's a DNA.
It's a DNA. And of course, we can think of great hotels, great groups, which have invested a lot of money to do so. But then think of the long tail. Think of the 4,500 other hotels that are that a big chunk of them is a small group of hotels, or maybe moms and pops kind of a hotel. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah. No, so I think what you're saying about Mecca totally makes sense, because last year, 23, we experienced Mecca for the first time, as from our perspective. So we powered Al Baik during Hajj, and we saw probably the largest QSR operation of 4 days in a nutshell. Like hundreds of thousands of checks done over 4 days. It was mind numbing. It was great. I mean, for us, there was great happiness because we could do that. But I think the craziness was quite something. I don't think anywhere else in the world at a single spot that kind of craziness is available. And we have powered FIFA stadiums in Qatar. Like the craziness we saw at Hajj in those 4 days, I don't think it's available anywhere in the world.
And it's also it's going to keep happening. Now it's going to happen at scale with Vision 2030's aspiration to achieve 30 million visitors or pilgrims. Expect numbers to even double. So this is where it was a big bet for Matbakhi, and we jumped into that opportunity, and we want to double down on this particular part of the world, because we believe that this is an inflection point for us.
So tell me a little bit more about Saudi Arabia. Like you were in Dubai and you are from Lebanon, and now you're building Matbakhi primarily in Saudi. Is that correct? Why? I understand the why of it from an opportunity perspective, but paint the opportunity from your eyes, from for Matbakhi. What do you look at as opportunity today and in next 3 years, let's say, not 2030, 3 years from now? What's happening?
So let me start by painting the picture on the why, of course, and then we can talk about the 3 years span or 3 year opportunity. In the past, I came to Saudi Arabia in 2008. I was a trainee in an engineering company, and I experienced it for the first time. Then in 2013 with McKinsey, I used to come here every week to serve different clients here in the kingdom. And we used to stay in hotels, right? All kinds of hotels in Riyadh, hotels in everywhere in the kingdom. One of the projects, I had to travel to potentially 20 locations in Saudi, and I have to actually stay in different hotels in these locations. So I got to see pretty much different levels of service, and the discrepancy is massive. So this is the first opportunity. It was very clear that by standardizing the quality, you can generate value. That was the first opportunity. The second one, obviously after understanding the clear strategy of Vision 2030, it was absolutely crucial for Saudi Arabia to double down on the tourism front. And today, if you look at the growth rate in tourism sectors, Saudi Arabia has the highest growth. Obviously, the base is low, but it has the highest growth rate, which tells you that with all the investments that are happening here, the hospitality space is gonna double or triple. Now, what's definite is that, of course, you can go into a 5-star hotel and not care about anything else. But if you are aiming to attract the number of visitors from all around the world, you'll have to up the level of the 1 to 4-star hotels. And we believe that if we manage to actually create the system and to standardize quality at a higher level, everyone will benefit. This is where the opportunity comes. Now, fast forward 3 years from now, there are big events that are going to happen in Saudi Arabia. Massively huge. We're starting to feel the sense of it, or the announcements. It reminds me of 2014 when Expo was announced in Dubai. You feel the rush. It's reflected on real estate. It's reflecting on the growth rates that you see, the economy expanding. Number of visitors. You start feeling the hype. Great. How can we capitalize on this in the next 3 years so we can create a network of hotels that we can use, or a network of keys under management that we can leverage to actually generate more value and add more services and products that would make way more sense beyond F&B. That would be a 3-year opportunity view. Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, soon enough we're going to achieve 40% of our target, of our 5-year target in terms of keys under management. So there's a lot of people to whom we have access. What do they want? What would and in each, in Riyadh is different than Mecca, different than Jeddah. What do they want? If you figure, this is the biggest question marketeers try to answer. What do customers want? And this is our chance, and this is the opportunity. If we manage to do it well.
No, that's a big one. I think I completely hear you, and the way you are abstracting it is perfect, right? Because if you think about it, McDonald's and Starbucks is not the greatest coffee or the greatest burger. They're just the consistent one. That's all. When I enter a McDonald's or a Starbucks in any part of the world, I know exactly what I am going to get, and I think that so many times it just beats better food, because you know exactly what are you getting yourself into. Yeah. So consistency and predictability in customer experience pays much better than better food or higher quality stuff.
But it's, if you think about today the F&B in let's say a 1 or 2 star hotel, because or let's say a 3-star hotel to make it easier, because F&B has been draining money, you as a GM wouldn't invest in culinary muscle to actually develop the menu, develop new recipes, source from suppliers. Of course you'll have a very high level of waste because there's not a lot of demand. So you wouldn't want that. You want really the very basic. So
I think it's also about the talent. I see that in hospitality industry, while 80-90% of the jobs are actually in non-branded, 1-star to 3-star sort of range. But the fact is that the best talent also does not want to opt for a smaller hotel anyway, right? So I call it the negative spiral of prosperity, right? So you don't get the talent because you're small, and you remain small because you don't have the talent. And
you can outsource talent in any case. So you can go and spend for a consultant, for a culinary consultant to come and revamp everything. But on a day-to-day operation, would you want to invest without knowing that you will incur a lot of losses in a department that is already losing? This is where you start saying, let's just do the bare minimum. Let us keep F&B just to get the occupancy, because there's direct link between having your F&B and then occupancy, room occupancy, and let us bite the bullet on an F&B and then reap the benefits in the rooms.
So Joe, I can clearly see that the metric for your success is the number of keys under management, right? So you have your revenue. So how do you look at your business metrics? Is your revenue average tied to a particular number of rooms? How do you look at a hotel's occupancy? If you can, whatever you are comfortable with, if you can dice and slice, what is the simplified view of how your business, like when you say, if you tomorrow tell me that, Ashish, we have just signed 10,000 more keys this year, in my head, what should I believe? Like what has happened?
Yeah. We break down the number of, so usually it's the number of hotels under management, but since every hotel has a specific number of rooms, we had to standardize, right? So we said, okay, let's consider every hotel is 100 rooms. You'll have 200s and you'll have 50. But let's just average it out on 100. How many hotels do we need to actually take the business to a level that we aspire for? Great. We need 10,000 rooms. We need 100 hotels. That's how we built our target. Now, you will have, so for example, now we're having a massively huge opportunity in Mecca with 2,000 rooms. So you will have these opportunities, obviously. But as a base business, you need to consider a hotel as a 100 key. This could be a 4 or 3 or 4-star hotel. This means that it will have an occupancy of around anywhere between 70 to 75%. It will have a kitchen space anywhere between 80 to 200 meters. It will have a lot of business on the breakfast front, very less on during lunch and dinner. It will have a 12% or 10% conversion between F&B to room service. Sorry, from room to room service orders. So these are the metrics that we start with, and then we say, okay, how can we improve each one? So how can we take that 10% to 30%? Okay, people want choice. You put in front of them choice. People want convenience. Great. QR code, web app where you can automatically.
Are you doing something to increase the room service orders?
Yeah, of course.
Can you share some anecdotes? What has worked? What has not?
So making sure that the customer or the guest knows that, now there's some additional concepts in that hotel that are cool, that are fun, on top of the hotel menu. This is the biggest hurdle, right? When people know, they will try, right? Because there's no delivery fee, and in Saudi it's very high, and there is no waiting time. In 12-15 minutes you get your order. So that's it.
Are you able to do that in room service?
Obviously, because we're fully integrated between the app, the kitchen display system, and if there's any call for room service, which...
So are you saying the hotel that you get into, you basically give customers an app through which they can order within the hotel, or are you talking about some... Or do they order on Talabat?
No. It's an app within the hotel, and then they also, even if they go to the all day restaurant, there's also on the tables the same app, the same QR code.
Brilliant.
So we're trying to because we have noticed that there is a very high number of return guests in the hotel. So if you manage to educate them about, okay, these are the different.
I think speed of services. I mean, I travel a lot. I travel 200 days a year. And one thing that I can definitely tell you is that the speed of service in room service is the number one impediment for me as a customer ordering from the hotel. Like invariably, like the topmost, hotels in the world, room service time sucks, not the food. But time really sucks, right? I mean, because they don't have any incentive to.
Because they understaff these kitchens for them not to become, for them to save on their losses. So they try as much as possible to understaff, and one person is pretty much. Have you ever been in a hotel kitchen? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I know.
You would walk in, you'd find like 2 people maybe for
Correct.
too many.
Doing
things.
everything,
right?
Yeah, I know.
And this is the interesting part. It's an asset, massive asset, that and usually owners, they overspend on their kitchens because they have dreams of selling the pasta, the pizza, the all kinds of salads, all kinds of. And reality is, well, they have the breakfast. That's it.
No, I was recently staying in 5 Palm, Dubai, and I remember day 1. I was there for a week. And day 1, and I was staying there for the first time because that's more like popular as a party hotel. And a friend suggested that, no, you should just take a suite, stay there for through your work week. It's interesting. I remember day 1, end of the day, I ordered something. That thing appeared in 25 minutes. It was hot. It was great. Tasted extremely well. You know what happened? Over next 7 days, I think I ran a big bill for food, And just because I was ordering so confidently, because I knew that the stuff is going to be here in the next 20, 25 minutes and it's going to be perfect. And I actually told, them later, a friend of mine, I'm common friends with the CEO. And I actually told him, I said, please, pass my message. This is brilliant. I can clearly see a lot of thought has gone into this. This is not by chance. I can see that, because otherwise most of the hotel restaurant kitchens don't have incentive to be, fast, because they look at you as a captive customer, and people only order room service when it's compulsion. It's never a choice. But the difference between that compulsion and choice, more than the taste, is the speed of service.
Absolutely. I heard this not too long ago. It says, first time entrepreneurs focus on the product, second time entrepreneurs focus on distribution.
100%. Guaranteed. Always.
Look, but we're still in hospitality. And throughout our first few, or the first 12 months in Matbakhi, our goal was to actually figure out how can you build this new breed of F&B servicing by merging the efficiency of one word with the quality of the second, being able to actually balance these two, and then eventually create this new breed of F&B servicing was the most difficult part. And we keep learning on this, because every day you will learn something new that you can improve. And this is the beauty of it, the power of really getting to a point where we can say that, look, this type of servicing where speed and quality come together, this is the holy grail.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. I understand that there was an entrepreneurial itch. You had been on your own twice before in life. But how was it jumping off the plane this time in 2022? I'm assuming you were coming from a cushy job, protected through pandemic. Delivery Hero is quite a protected, large company. Jumping off, how has been last 2 years, if I may say, or a little less than 2, right? How's the heat, the entrepreneurial heat, feeling? Is there heat, first of all, and how are you living through it? How are you coping with it? What has changed in you?
So jumping into it was a big leap of faith, of course. And, I remember, this is back then, I was saying, will I ever struggle to find a high paying job? That was my biggest question. And when I got the answer on that one, I said, it's a no-brainer.
What was that answer?
Look, I believe that at this point in my career, there's really few things that stop me from actually delivering on any project. Okay, and that was both the driver to actually believe that I can get a high-paying job, and I will, if I need to actually go back into employment, I would be able to. At the same time, this belief will let me jump into an entrepreneurial journey with full-fledged, all in, do or die. Because other than that, the biggest hurdle for someone is your own perception of what you can and cannot achieve. And if you start putting these barriers and these curtains and oh no, what will happen if, for example, if we don't succeed, or what will happen if we will run out of money, or what will happen. So you start putting all of these scenarios that scare you, and you don't solve the problem. You sit, and the problems will consume you. So when I jumped into this, it was definitely due to the huge support of my family, my wife in particular. She's
still at McKinsey?
No, she wasn't in McKinsey, but she wanted to be in McKinsey,
Okay.
but I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was very supportive, and this support is not a one-time support. Yeah, you should totally do it. No, that's an everyday support, right? Because of that emotional roller coaster that entrepreneurship is. It's consistent, right? So she's always there to be the cushion, to support, to lift me up when I'm down, and to celebrate with me when I'm high. So that was the belief of, look, at this point in our careers, my co-founder and I, we have accumulated all kinds of learnings. We've reached a point, my co-founder and I, where we said, okay, at this point of our careers, we've kind of accumulated all the knowledge on how to build a business in F&B, in hospitality, and how to run, and what are the challenges that we need to avoid, or the hiccups that we need to avoid. All of this resulted into having a very nice journey so far. Obviously, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. So the highs are high and the lows are low. But if you know that after a low there is a high, it doesn't really impact you as it would impact someone.
What Joe? What changed? Was there a change in first 6 months? Because generally, there is one view of jumping, into entrepreneurship, and the fact that lows can be really, really low, highs can be really high. But did anything change inside you as well? Like experiencing it full on is very different, right? You experienced entrepreneurship when you did not have as many liabilities in the past, and I'm making an assumption here, right? But I'm just trying to read from your life so far. And this time, I'm sure you're taken care of. You have worked, you have had a great career to not have liabilities which may be weighing you down. But then, of course, you have a family. It's a different age. Did anything change emotionally after 6 months, after 3 months, was there a point where you felt, oh shit, like this is real? Or has it been just smooth?
Yes. Yes, I felt this. Of course, when our first round, when we were just a PowerPoint presentation, we went and talked to a few investors, and we got too many no's, right? And most of them were VCs, because we were too greenfield at this point in time. So at this point in time, we said, okay.
And people like Kitopi, etc., were also raising funds, so I'm sure must be of a little help from a perception perspective.
Then and there, yes, but it was very clear in the later part of 2022 that, look, there's a crisis coming. Okay, everybody's weathering for that crisis. Those who have already investments with companies they are doubling down, because to protect these companies and protect their interest in these companies. So there was a big challenge to actually raise then and there. But then we looked at our network, who has been accumulating a lot of wealth during the past 2 years. And we managed to raise what we needed to raise, and automatically this tells you that whatever challenge you will face in this, that's the learning. Whatever challenge that you will face, you can freeze and say, oh no, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna lose everything. Or you can say, okay, great, how can we solve it? What are the different things who should we talk to? Who can advise us, right? There's nothing that doesn't have an answer. Everything, any problem can be resolved. It's just a matter of understanding what you should sacrifice sometimes to actually get the answer or get the solution done.
What's the division of work between you and your co-founder?
Rodolphe is leading operations. I'm leading growth and investor, capital raising.
Okay, so like if I go a little deeper in that, what's your day like?
My day like is there are different practices that my day is split with, right? Not necessarily every day, but of course there are almost 5 practices.
Give me a view of a week. let's say, if not a particular day, right? Like,
so definitely there is a big chunk of it to engage with the team and make sure that our North Stars are clear to everyone. And we make sure that we always bring back everything that we do into a bigger picture so people see the value and see the purpose of what we're doing. Because this business it's brutal. If you lose track, sometimes it will consume you and you will burn out. To avoid this, it is extremely important to always communicate why we're doing what we're doing, right? It's trivial, but it's very important. There's that. There's a lot of discussions with hotel groups that I conduct to plan our future expansions. Discussions with investors for future rounds of investment. Then I have growth conversations, particularly, of course, the number of hotels, but also understanding what are the new concepts that we need to launch. What are the different spend that we need to focus on in terms of marketing or on the growth side.
So when you say marketing, you mean, your customers are hotels.
So
it's a B2B.
It's a B2B2C, right? So we have a B2B element, okay, which is directly the hotels. Then you have the B2C, which is the food delivery as well, because from that hotel we service the regions. And then
how many virtual brands are you running? You're talking about the virtual brand piece.
Today, right? We have yes, which is a small part of our business. Today we have 12 brands, and we're planning to take that to 24 by the end of the year.
So when you say 12 brands right now and it'll become 24, let's say, each brand represents what? Like a particular cuisine, or do you have multiple brands in the same cuisine as well? How are you thinking about this?
We have different brands in the same cuisine with different positioning for each brand. Obviously, we have identified some key cuisines that we need to be in for sure, and it always starts from, if we are servicing a certain hotel, what would the guest want? Let me give you an example. In one of the hotels that we're serving, not too far from here, by the way, they have a big French community, or a big number of French guests. So making sure that we have an entrecôte sandwich, making sure that we have a profiterole brand. These are little things that will transform the guest experience in the hotel, and also, of course, we will sell it on food delivery platforms. Now, the big question is, sometimes burger brands in Saudi Arabia are big, right?
Yeah,
it's a big cuisine. So of course we will have our burger brand, of course. But is this a differentiating factor for the guests inside the hotel? Maybe not. So that's why sometimes you actually focus on a niche part of the burger segment, right? Or you would want to go an extra mile on the type of burgers that you do to actually create this differentiating factor for that hotel, or for the guests inside the hotel.
But are you synthesizing different brands for different hotels that you take up, or are you also trying to standardize certain brands that might be available in like literally every hotel?
Yeah, you're right. So there is a base for pretty much all the hotels. We know what are the brands that are, or what are the cuisines that are a must to be in every hotel. But then eventually you will start finding, so for example, in one of the hotels that we're working in, our top selling brand is not appreciated because the base, the structure, the demographics of that hotel are completely off, right? So they're focused completely on Americans, English and South Africans. So one of our top selling brands is not selling there. Great. So this is where you start. Of course, we're still a new company. We still have a long way. But if you think of the end game, you will have a large portfolio of brands where you would pick and choose which brand and which location, so you can elevate the guest experience, right? And then, of course, sell on online food delivery in these locations.
So you're talking about the practices that you do with the team, right? So one is this part, which is growth. Making sure that your North Star is, team is aligned. What else?
There's stakeholder management, including investors. I like to make sure that all the investors are always engaged. They feel that they have a say in the business. They feel that they are part of the business. They're not just quarter to quarter kind of an engagement, which I really don't like. There is, of course, the team building. And this means understanding what are the capabilities that are missing in our team and how to attract the best talent. There's the vision practices, and this is something that I force on myself, which is, okay, great, this is the vision for Matbakhi. Where do we want to take, how can we take that business to become 10x, right? And what are the implications on the organization? So the vision practices. There are certain projects that I like to lead, very specific, like
Give
yourself.
Me an example.
Huh?
Give me an example.
Give me an example. So unlocking a particular service in a particular hotel was extremely important for us, because it would unlock for us the development of the relationship with the hotel, and eventually will get us more hotels, which happened, by the way. So that service, the way we defined it and how we needed to actually to go, I needed to go from the 30,000 feet to the 3 feet level, which I did. And I got engaged with the rest of the team, and we actually delivered on this. And this is something that is extremely important, because I truly believe at this stage of our existence, one needs to be able to really play or wear multiple hats and have a different leadership style, right? Sometimes you have to lead from the front, from the back, from the middle, and it's extremely important to be in the trenches as well, to avoid being seen as someone just sitting on their throne and just saying things up in the air, right? So you need to get your hands dirty sometimes. And I take that opportunity not only to learn more about the business and about the conditions that the team has to go through, but also to become way more effective in the conversations. Imagine how this will enrich my conversations with other hotels when you can communicate this level of details. So yeah, I think these are things that I usually do.
How do you keep yourself enriched? Do you read?
Yes, I actually do.
Any particular book that you're reading right now, or you read in like last 1 year, which left an impact?
There's a lot of nice books out there. Then there's also the recency bias. You can only remember the
that's okay. That's great. One. Yeah.
There's a nice book called The Power of Habit. I don't know if you...
Power of Habit?
Yes. This is a book that... so let me answer the question before. How do I keep myself enriched? I'm usually inspired by journeys, and eventually by the people who actually run these journeys. I'm way more inspired by how you got to the end result instead of the end result itself, right? I'm a big basketball player. I'm a big fan of basketball. For me, of course, Michael Jordan is the best player in the world. But I found myself inspired by Kobe Bryant because I was capable of seeing his routines and his work ethics way more online than I managed to see Michael Jordan's. And this is where I developed this appreciation on his mentality, on his approach, on his discipline, right? And that inspired me a lot. And this kinds of 1% improvement, this kind of continuous pursuit of excellence. This is something that inspires me a lot, and the people who actually deliver on it.
So what do you consume for this? Like, is it like online videos, biographies?
Yeah.
Interviews,
videos, of course, books. So, for example, in The Power of Habit that I just mentioned, they talk about some of the habits that Michael Phelps did. So Michael Phelps, other than the God-given fact that his arms are very long, he used to watch every day a rerun of his whole training. Imagine, every day, Christmas, New Year's, doesn't matter. He goes to training, comes back, watches the whole video before sleeping. Every day. Like imagine if you do this every day. How, and you start, critiquing yourself. Okay, maybe the stroke was wrong. This is how you develop this day in, day out, this differential that will expand 2-3 years down the line.
Subconsciously becoming your own coach.
Exactly. The power of habit. These cues that you have on a daily basis to actually drive you to self-improvement. That's one book that I like. Another book that I'm still reading right now is The Diary of a CEO. It's also a very interesting book. It's not only for CEOs; it's just for any person who wants to make it big. It talks about 33 principles. Some of them are very interesting. For example, one of them is the 5 buckets. This is something, and basically it says that your journey in life is 5 buckets, right? The first one is what you know, right? The second one is your experience. The third one is who you know. The fourth one is what you have. And the last one, which is your resources. And the last one is what people think of you, which is your reputation. And then slowly but surely, you have to, throughout your careers, you have to fill every bucket and be patient in filling each and every bucket. And sometimes you would jump the gun, right? You would do something that people will know about, but that doesn't mean that you have filled the other buckets. And you need to be, as a professional, aware of that. So you fill these buckets and avoid having this self-belief that will drive you eventually to failure.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's I'm still reading this book. It's nice.
Joe, that is brilliant. And I think I have few takeaways, but one of the things that definitely stands out for me is that you're definitely a clear thinker, and the clarity that you exude is hard work that you do every day. You're intentional about it. I can totally see that. I'm extremely happy to hear about Matbakhi, and I know that you're going great guns. This is going to go places. You're in a great market, great timing, and a lot of things are coming together for you. This was a great conversation, Joe.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
This was brilliant. Thank you for doing this.
It's my pleasure.
All the best.
Thank you.